Should you get a COVID-19 booster now? An expert weighs in. Dr. Lena 1. I think it's important to clarify who is advised to get a booster versus who may get it. In August, the FDA and CDC already announced that people who are moderately or severely immunocompromised and who received 2 doses of either the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines should get a 3rd dose of the same vaccine. If you are in this category of people who received an organ transplant, are on chemotherapy for cancer, or have other immunosuppressing conditions, it's advised that you get a booster dose now. What was decided last week is for individuals who already received the 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine, who are at least 6 months out from their 2nd dose, and who are either 65 years old and above, or are 50 years old and above and have an underlying medical condition that makes them more likely to have a severe outcome from COVID-19. Those people are advised to get a 3rd Pfizer dose, and should. Another, much broader group may get the Pfizer booster. That's the group of adults ages 18 and above, who either have underlying medical conditions or who are in occupations that are high risk for exposure to COVID-19. These individuals aren't necessarily advised to get the booster, but they may, once they weigh their own risks and benefits in consultation with their physicians.
When the thinking is that there is a group that's the highest risk. That's the people 65 and older, who reside in nursing homes, or who are 50 and over with underlying medical conditions. They should get the 3rd dose, and the data is clear is that they would benefit. The advisory panel essentially said that the benefit-risk calculation is a little less clear for those who are in the 2nd, broader group. That's why they may get the vaccine and can choose to get it, but it's not yet advised that they do. I think this is an important point. It's clear those in the highest risk group should go out and get the 3rd dose if they are past the 6-month mark since their 2nd shot. Then, there are others who should get to choose for themselves. We are at a point in the pandemic when people are making very different decisions about their own risks. I think it's reasonable to let people decide about their own level of risk and whether they want a booster at this time. When they are interchangeable terms for the time being. Right now, someone in the US is considered fully vaccinated if they receive 2 doses of either the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines or 1 dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. A booster is the term being used for another vaccine dose for someone who is fully vaccinated. For people who got the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines, which is the majority of the American public, that's a 3rd dose. There are some experts who have said that this additional dose for those immunocompromised should not be considered a booster per se, as they never got the full immune protection to begin with from the first 2 doses. But that's a very technical response. Practically, for those who got the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines, a booster and 3rd dose mean the same thing. In the broader group who are allowed but not yet advised to get the booster, the evidence is clear that immunity to mild COVID-19 does wane over time. Protection still appears strong against severe infection. A 3rd dose appears to increase protection against symptomatic disease. There could be long-term consequences to even a mild breakthrough infection. For a lot of people, avoiding hospitalization isn't the only goal they care about. If you really want to avoid COVID-19, then that also could skew in favor of getting the booster once you hit your 6-month mark. Consider, also, your own health as well as risk exposures. The CDC has a list of underlying medical conditions that make it more likely that a person will have severe consequences as a result of COVID-19. These medical risks are additive. If you have, say, diabetes, heart disease, renal disease and emphysema, you are at higher risk of severe outcomes than if you have well-controlled diabetes alone. Similarly, if you are mostly working from home, you may not have a lot of risk exposures, but if you are a teacher who is around a lot of unvaccinated and often unmasked kids in a cramped classroom, your risk is higher. When the data from Israel, where there has been an extensive booster program, shows that the side effects from the 3rd dose are comparable to those from the 2nd dose. The most common side effects are local reactions like a sore arm and short-term symptoms like achiness, fatigue and chills that resolve within a couple of days. Still, especially if you are a younger male, but also if you are in the may versus should category, it is always a good idea to have a conversation with your doctor about the risks versus benefits of the vaccine. When to get a booster dose, all you need is a self-attestation. That means you get to make the decision. There is no doctor's note or other proof of occupation or medical condition required. I believe that people should be allowed to make the decision for themselves, in consultation with their doctor, about what constitutes high risk. Going into a workplace where you're surrounded by potentially unvaccinated people in an indoor, cramped setting certainly meets the common sense test for what is high risk. When, right now, the only people who got the Moderna vaccine who can get a third dose are those who are immunocompromised. Moderna and J&J are both submitting their booster doses for authorization by the FDA, and it should be a matter of weeks before we get more information. It's not yet recommended to mix and match doses, so if you received Moderna, you should wait for the Moderna booster rather than getting the Pfizer booster. I know there's a lot of talk of boosters now, but I want to make one thing very clear. The most important thing from a public health standpoint is still to make sure people get their first doses of the vaccine. Unvaccinated people make up the majority of people who are hospitalized and dying from COVID-19. They also constitute the majority of transmissions. Getting boosters for those vaccinated is an added plus to increase individual protection, and people should certainly do it if they so choose. But we also cannot lose sight of the importance of getting first doses into people who still remain unvaccinated.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe